Is Caitlin Clark the next LeBron James? Do I support the campus protest? Yes and no. Why is Ozempic all of a sudden now allowed to be prescribed to people outside of with diabetes? Like what? What's up, guys? Back again with a solo podcast. Like I said, planned for every 2 weeks because that seems like to be the schedule. We ordered another one of these mics, so the next step, the next evolution of the show is that way me and Lexi can both have one of these mics when we start the episode. A lot of people don't realize, or the people that watch, is we have normally a giant boom mic that's literally right here, and I have to set it up every time we shoot, unless if I use this mic. But we only have one of these, so next episode, hopefully, I think that it's actually supposed to come today. I think that Mike, hopefully the next episode with me and Lexi, we'll both have one of these nice mics. So we're constantly trying to figure out a way to make it easier for us to shoot the podcast so we can be more consistent. And that's one of them. So I don't have to set up a boom mic every time we shoot. But a lot of things have happened since the last solo pod. We had the comedy roast with Tom Brady. That I feel like I've always been a fan of all the roasts. So I've been a fan of Nikki Glazier. I've been a fan of Tony Hinchcliffe for a while. And this one, I think, might have been the best one. The only other one that I think could rival this one, the Justin Bieber one was pretty good. And then also the James Franco one was good. Those are the kind of... But I think this one might have been better. I think it was because, one, it was 3 hours long, and then the list of celebrities they had, it was kind of, it was kind of nice seeing some of the NFL players, get up there and do like stand-up comedy, and they went kind of dark in some of the, some of the humor. So I think it was a good show of not only like the next phase of comedy, kind of like that cancel culture kind of being gone in the sense of like, maybe like a year or two ago, if you would have said some of those jokes, you wouldn't even have said some of those jokes, some of those people on those stages. But yeah, I think it shows that there's hopefully a new wave in comedy coming up. And then, I kind of missed the age of comedy movies where there was like, this is the end, the Hangover trilogy, what was it, the Step Brothers. Like, I feel like the mid 2000s and the early 2010s, I guess that's how you call it. I think that was kind of like the golden age of comedy for, I guess, my generation so far. But yeah, but the one thing I did want to kind of moving forward to topics, because I didn't want to harp too much on the roast because it's just it was so long and there's so many things to go over that I'm not going to spend a whole 30 minutes talking about it. And plus, I kind of want to get to the next big thing that I've been consumed with is Caitlin Clark. Is Caitlin Clark the next LeBron James? Now, coming from my perspective of LeBron James and basketball, I grew up playing soccer and football, so I was not a big fan of basketball, but LeBron got me into the NBA. Like, I remember as a kid seeing him come out of high school. I might have been like 6 or 7, but I remember the hype around him coming into the NBA out of high school. So I was a big fan of his since his first time in the Cavs. I just hopped from team to team. Whatever team LeBron James was on, I became a fan of because of how much hype was behind him. From the day he got into the NBA, he was... people were calling him the next Michael Jordan. When he was in high school, he would have, just as like Caitlin Clark in her games at Iowa, 20, 30,000 people at a high school game. So I think, is she the next LeBron James? In the terms of hype, yes. I think what has happened with her coming into the WNBA, it made me someone who, I'm not a traditional basketball player. Like I said, I only watched the NBA because of LeBron James. Now I'm literally watching the WNBA because of Caitlin Clark. Like, I think that same type of hype of, I know Caitlin Clark, her hype was created within college, which is different than LeBron in the sense of his was created in high school. But if you compare her high school or her college career to LeBron's high school career and how much hype was built in those 4 years, I think it's really, really similar. And if she can ride that wave and perform this next first 2-3 years and establish herself as a greatness like LeBron did in his first a couple years, she might be have the same effect LeBron did on the NBA that Caitlin Clark has on the WA times 3. And the reason why I say times 3 is because I think of that league as if she's like the Magic of the WNBA in the sense of she's putting it on the map. If you look at the numbers of last year compared to what's even coming from this year so far in preseason, it's like 1,000% increase. And so if she can live up to the hype, I definitely see college basketball, or not college, well, college and the professional women's basketball getting more views. They're going to start getting more, bigger contracts. A lot of people are complaining about her contract, but it's going to take a year for things to catch up because the salaries are based off how much the league makes. And a lot of people don't realize the WNBA makes no money. They actually lose money, and the NBA subsidizes it every year. So I think this is the first time, one, that they might even break even or make money, and then two, the amount of money they make this year, I think is going to be allow them to expand on the marketing behind them. Because I think what the good thing about Caitlin Clark is she plays the bad guy. She can play the bad guy and the good guy, and she talks shit. She has like some swag to her game, and she shoots threes like a dude. Like, I don't want to make it sound like an insult, but when she shoots, it kind of looks like a guy shooting, and that's what I told Lexi. I was like, man, she looks like her form is really, really very clean, very nice, and it's not something you traditionally see in women's basketball. And I was like, wow. And then now I'm learning about other players in women's basketball that I didn't realize. And the funny thing is, I started as an Angel Reese fan last year because I was like, bandwagon on the LSU train. And then I just kind of, throughout last year, I learned that, the whole thing that Angel Reese was mad about or mimicking Caitlin Reese for wasn't true. Caitlin Clark did this in one of her games, and a lot of people thought because of the camera angle, it was towards an individual girl, but she was actually doing it towards her coach. And the girl that it was supposedly towards already came out and was like, oh yeah, that was not towards me in an interview. So the reason why Angel Reese was mad and did all that showboating, I guess, was not legitimate. And it kind of made me like, oh, maybe I should take another look at Caitlin Clark. And I did, and she's nasty. She like I said, it looks like sometimes a dude playing within women's, just how she shoots. It's just so clean. But the next topic, kind of moving forward, is I do want to bring up Shabuzi again, because Shabuzi, I listened to his whole catalog of music, like I said last time, and now I'm re-listening to it again. And he not only does rap and country, but he also has it seems like some gospel-y type of stuff on there. I think he's a good artist to kind of come up through this kind of Beyonce wave of country music, because he represents more than just country. He has a little bit of everything. And so if you haven't already, go check out his music. I'm not sponsored by him at all, but the last subject that I had two more subjects. And I know I'm going quick, and it's because I literally started doing this podcast after a 3-mile run up the mountain, and I wanted to get it out of the way because it's Sunday, it's Mother's Day, and I have been working for the past 7 days straight, and I want a little break tonight. So I want to knock this out, get this edited, and back to you guys so you can have it tomorrow. But the next topic I wanted to do, I'll tell you the next two topics: the campus protests and Ozempic. Those are the two topics I'm going to cover. So I guess I'll start with the campus protests. I guess the question is, do I support the campus protests? Yes and no. I do not support how they're going about protesting. I do not believe that when you protest, the point of protesting is to get people to agree with you, to change people's perspectives. And when you're shutting down campuses, closing roads, causing some videos I've seen kind of rioting type, and you disturb the public peace, that I think goes against the purpose of a protest. And that's why I think MLK, peaceful protests, he kind of established that as the way of going about stuff or going about protesting. And I think if you could do that, your message is so much stronger. So I do not support how they're going about protesting, shutting down campuses. Like, if I'm a kid going to class, I'm paying tuition, I need to get to class. Like, maybe I do support you, but now you're angering me because I can't get to class, or if a professor can't get into class. Now you're just disrupting their days, and you might actually, even they might be like been on your side, but then you convince them to not support you anymore because of you disrupting their days. And there's better ways to protest than doing like these type of things. But now the next question is, do I support what they're protesting? And that's like a gray area, because I do not like how Israel is conducting themselves with war. It's the same kind of my ill feeling. It's the same ill feeling that I have towards when the Obama administration started doing more drone strikes and airstrikes on targets, which increased civilian casualties. It's that same feeling. Like, I do not support how Israel's doing it, but I also don't support Hamas. So it's like, I support Israel taking out Hamas, but I do not support the way they're going about it right now. And you can agree, you can feel that way. I think that way of feeling is not being emphasized and talked about enough in media, because I do not condone Hamas, but like I said, I do not condone what Israel is doing. It's what America did by those changes during the Obama administration. We set the precedents of how Western civilizations conduct themselves in war. And Israel is just taking what we did and increasing it a little bit. And we have no one else to blame than ourselves, because we not only set that precedent, we also funded that precedent by giving them weapons, by funding their militaries. And so this is, when you go voting this year, are you really, like most of these people who are protesting, are you really not going to vote for Joe Biden? Ask yourself that, because then you're kind of defeating your purpose. Like, if a lot of these people are progressive Democrats, and so if you are protesting and nothing changes by November, and you vote for Biden, you are kind of against what you just kind of disrupted and made America more devices over. So it's like, why? There's other ways to go about protesting than cause this division within our people, because I feel like a lot of people have the same feeling as me. It's like, okay, we don't like what Israel's doing, but we don't like Hamas either. And now Israel is telling the people of Rahal, I think I pronounced it right. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. They evacuate. So Gaza's not big, and they're evacuating. Like, where are all these people that they're trying to evacuate? And that's what I don't like about it. They're just going to, are they going to about to continue that cycle again? And now they're going to start bombing Rahal or whatever that place is called. And then we're going to see more videos of innocent people dying. Like, if this is the continuous cycle, what's going to happen during this war, then something needs to change. And what is that change? I don't know. I'm not a politician. Maybe if I understood, because what people don't realize when you're voting for a Democrat or a Republican, most Republicans and all corporate Democrats are cut from the same cloth. And what's going to happen is whether you vote Republican or Democrat right now, they know something that we don't know. The reason why I say that is because Speaker Mike Johnson, before being sworn in, was completely against funding Ukraine and Israel. And then he had meetings with, to get his security clearances or whatnot, had meetings with the Biden administration, and I guess FBI and CIA, people talk to him and stuff like that. And then he flips the script, and he says something along the lines like he prayed on it and essentially made that remark. I don't want to say BS remark of like God told him to, so there's a lot of stuff that I feel like we don't realize when it comes to politics and war, because America, I wouldn't say America, the American government, but American companies profit off a war. How do we profit off a war? Well, a lot of people don't realize one of the rules within NATO is whenever a country is brought into NATO, they are only allowed to buy their weapons from a list of American weapon manufacturers. This is true. Go look it up. One of the rules of NATO is that they have to buy their weapons from this list of manufacturers, and they're all American companies. And so when we are increasing NATO and expanding the countries that are within it, what is the incentive for the companies that are benefiting? To have more war. They keep expanding NATO. And so there might be people on both sides of the aisle, both sides of the aisle in America, both sides of the aisle in Israel, both sides of the aisle in every Western country that's within NATO, and not Western country, that's probably having some type of say in like, we need to attack this. And so it might not be directly American congressmen. It might not, but it could be politicians in other countries that are bought out by people that work for these American companies. And people don't think it that way because the one thing that Russia does have a concern with is the way America is conducting ourselves in NATO and expanding it would be a threat for Middle Eastern countries, Russia, China, who aren't within NATO. Like, that's a threat to them if you're looking at it from their perspective, because now all these companies or all these countries are getting the top of the line weapons, nuclear weapons, missiles, fighter jets. And if you actually look at the military capability of Russia per se, China is actually catching up. It's not as advanced as they want you to think. China, on the other hand, is their military is advancing way more quicker than Russia's. And that's probably the bigger threat we should probably think about later on, or in the next decade or so. But that's another episode to talk about. So the close off that section of this podcast is we need to start thinking about how is the best way for us to handle these Middle Eastern countries without going to war. There's an answer to it. These problems did not exist when there was a president like JFK in power that... All right, we're back. So my phone rang. I looked at it and it made me lose the train of thought. So if there's a really hard cut, it's because I was on my phone and I lost my train of thought because right now, like I said, I came back from a 3-mile run and I went straight into doing this podcast. And, I'm kind of have that like runner's fog brain still. But let's move on to the next topic and let's talk about Ozempic. I do not hold Ozempic against anyone. If you take it, fine. The only thing that I question is why is Ozempic all of a sudden why is it allowed that Ozempic's now allowed to be prescribed to people outside of with diabetes? Like, what was that change within the last 5 years? Because it's not a new drug per se. It's been around for a while. So what was the change that is allowing doctors to prescribe it now to people who just need to lose weight? And I think that's a gray area within medicine. And me and Lexi just watched a movie. I think it was called Pain Hustler or something like that. And it's with Chris Evans and Emily Blunt. And they worked for a drug manufacturer. And they essentially recruit doctors by holding speakers events where they pay a doctor $10,000, $20,000 to come to their event to speak in front of their company. And then that doctor, in exchange for that $20,000, has a fun weekend, gets to talk in front of a couple hundred people, feels important. And then in return, he prescribes their drugs to his patients. And they got caught and went to jail for it. Is something similar happening with Ozempic? I don't know. Like, it's just weird that all of a sudden, this drug, all these celebrities started taking it, and now the rest of the country is able to take it. Like, is it going to be turning to, an opioid type crisis? That was hard to say. Is it going to be turned into that again? Something like that? I don't know. And do we know the long-term health benefits? I probably think we do know those, because I think it's been around for enough to know that there is probably some, negative effects, but maybe it's not as bad. But I think there might be something shady happening in the sense of why is it now allowed to be prescribed to more people than before? And that's a question that I think people should be asking themselves. And if this is the case, will this company be around in 5-10 years if they get caught doing something sketchy? Well, I guess I just answered my own question thinking about it, because Pfizer's are still around. And if you look up Pfizer, they had, I think, one of the largest, I might get this video demonetized because I'm talking about Pfizer, but they had one of the biggest criminal penalties or bailouts of all time, where they had to pay like a $2-3 billion fine for lying about like research they had on their drugs. So, and I think it was like $3 or $4 billion. Yeah, it was a big number. It's like like I said, it's the highest. And actually, I'll put up the statistic right now. Okay, I'm going to try doing that more often, because I have so many random facts in my head that sometimes I misstate them by like some way where it's a half truth or like an 80% truth. And so when I think I do that, I'm going to pause the video and put the statistic up there. But I think before you do a drug like Ozempic, you need to look at the long-term effects of it. And me personally, I'm less concerned about, it being harmful for people, and more actually interested to see if something shady is happening on that could be criminally charged, because it's just weird when a drug all of a sudden is being prescribed more. Like, that's not how I think drugs should be handled. It's not like, drugs that you get at a pharmacy shouldn't be handled the same way as new Nike shoes. Like, hey, look at these new running shoes. They make you faster, stronger. And it's just weird when a drug is just now making its way through people. More and more people are taking it. And it's like this, it feels a little weird. And if you take it, great. I just hope in like 20, 30 years, we don't see those commercials. Did you take Ozempic? You have the right to blah, 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 settlement, blah, 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 blah. And then, that the amount of people who are taking it, that could be a bad thing. But I don't know. I think if you're taking it right now, no harm against you. Just, I guess, be wary of how much, because you're taking it. Apparently, Tom Segura's wife got like sick from it or something like that. And apparently it makes you sick, make you feel sick. I don't know. But without further ado, guys, this was a rough podcast. It's thrown together, but like I said, we're going to continue to keep pushing them out. That way we can speak our truths. Until next time, peace.